Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda. So, one thing that's different in the research that was found between successful marriages and failing marriages is the wife's negativity tolerance. What in the world is negativity tolerance?
You know, the more that she decides that she's going to overlook something that has a negative impact on her, it just kind of builds and it creates a negative atmosphere in the marriage. And really, the sooner that she can notice it and call it out and say, hey, here's something that's going on, that's really more of an indicator of a positive, successful marriage.
So, if a woman has a low negativity tolerance, that means when things get a little bit negative, she'll address it.
Right.
If she has a high negativity tolerance,
It builds.
it has to get really bad before she'll say anything.
There's more likely going to be an opportunity to explode when somebody allows something to kind of build.
Well, conflict and even day-to-day life gets more and more negative. So when a woman has a high tolerance for negativity, the marriage is going to get more and more distressed. It kind of starts a cycle. And this usually happens because the man is not addressing issues with her.
Right. You know, this is something that I had to learn to overcome in our relationship, was to go ahead and call out the things that I noticed that are negative and not just overlook it, overlook, and those things would tend to build and create more of a negative perception of our spouse.
Because when they explode, it isn't going to go well.
No.
But yet when we're bringing them up and it's not as big of a deal, we can just matter-of-factly mention it. But guess what? Our spouse has to treat it like it's important.
Yeah. You know, how do you think that your spouse is going to respond when you come to them and say, you know, for the last 5 years, you've been doing this. It's been going on, you know, periodically. Well, they're going to feel like, why didn't you say something to me about that? I could have made a change if I was aware of it.
But what if we are doing something and our spouse makes us aware, you know what? I'm so sorry, but, you know, certain thing that you're doing has a negative impact on me. And it kind of sets me up to respond poorly. Can we adjust that? It's a trigger for me. Maybe we could approach that from a different angle that would be positive or at least neutral.
You know, and sometimes we can just watch how we word something, say it more from a coaching perspective or a way of presenting that, so that it makes it a little easier for our spouse to hear and receive the thing that we have to share.
Also, we can ask questions to draw out more information. If we come across more curious and interested and we're drawing out information, we're actually just laying things on the table, and that feels less threatening than if we come across in a demanding way.
Something like, hey, I just wanted you to be aware of this, and this is how it made me feel.
So if we are validating what each other is saying, then we're less likely to drive up the negativity level. And that means that we're considering our spouse's input to be absolutely as valuable as our own.
So I think just looking back over this, you just want to make sure you're not avoiding dealing with issues, but that you're bringing them up, and of course, in a positive way.
And if we believe that God made one out of two, then we would have to look at the husband and the wife, and we would have to say, you know what, this would be, if this was important to me, how would I address this? What would I do? To what lengths would I go to resolve it? But if it's in you and you're the one presenting it, will I go to the same great lengths to resolve it? Or will I, because it's a non-issue to me, do I act like, well, that makes it a non-issue for this marriage?
Yeah.
Marriage is made of two people.
We want to be validating the perspective that our spouse has. Even though it's different than ours, we want to show a value for it.
So we've brought out some things that can lower that tolerance of negativity. You want to create a safe and welcoming environment so your spouse is able to approach you. You're approachable for them to address, especially the wife to the husband, because you care. Thank you for sharing that with me. If we work on some of the things that we just presented, and there may be others, you could ask each other, you know, how can I be more approachable for you? Then we make it to where the wife is able to come to the husband and share these things, and then she'll be able to share them when they're not as big of a deal, instead of holding on to them until she's ready to explode.
You know, that reminds me of a verse in James where it says, the wisdom that is from above is easy to be entreated. That means you want to create that welcoming environment that it's easy for your spouse to come to you and let you know that there's something negative that needs to be changed.